Tommy Lanham. Oh, I didn't see this on here. I need to give the speaker's name and spelling for the judges. The speaker's name is Tommy Lanham, spelled T-O-M-M-Y-L-A-N-H-A-M. Tommy Lanham. Does anyone need that repeated? Very good. Our speaker today, Tommy Lanham. Never settle for here. Never settle for here. Tommy Lanham.
Woo-hoo! It was May 29th, 1991, and I was pumped. It was my graduation day from high school. I was ready to get out of there and go on to bigger and better things. I was up that morning getting ready to leave. I was talking with my dad. We were kind of chatting back and forth, and all of a sudden he looked at me and he said, "Boy." I always knew my dad was serious when he called me boy. With my mom, it's like my whole name, Thomas Lee Lanham. But my dad looked at me and he said, "Boy, I never thought I'd live to see this day." Well, that'll build your confidence, right? Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, Chairman, and fellow Toastmasters. He said he thought he'd never live to see that day, but he had reason to feel that way because I was not a good kid. I think it had to do with my birth. You see, I was born at a very young age. But not quite as young as you would think. You see, I was due in 1971. I wasn't born until 1972. January 21st of 1972. And because of that, my birth was a rough experience. Matter of fact, I wasn't really even born. My mom had to have a C-section after 36 hours of labor. And when I came out, I was so ugly that my parents did not even buy my baby pictures. Can you believe that? No wonder I was a bad kid. The first time I ran away from home. Yes, the first time I ran away from home. I was 2 years old. I was out playing in the yard. Our yard was fenced in, so my mom would let me play out there while she was inside doing some work. She'd look out the window and check on me. She looked out, I wasn't there. She walked outside and realized that I had learned a new skill. How to open the gate. The gate was open and I was gone. She looked for me, couldn't find me. She ran in and called the police. And the police says, "Ma'am, I think we found your son." I was several blocks away, across a set of railroad tracks, sitting in a bar, talking with a couple of chicks. I was not a good kid. When I was 4 years old, I remember distinctly this day. I don't remember anything else when I was 4 years old, but I remember doing this. I took my sister's Barbie doll and I set her hair on fire and I threw it on my mom and dad's bed. And I walked back into the living room, sat down, and continued watching television. Now, a bunch of people were already at the house. A lot of them were smoking. And so the house was full of smoke, and that whole room was in flames before anybody noticed. You see, smoking really is bad for your health. I was a bad kid. Not only that, academically, I struggled. I was an average student at best. I was always that student that had to try twice as hard to get half as much completed. I always enjoyed going to school. Matter of fact, I enjoyed the 6th grade so well, took it twice. But I never did well. And when I graduated high school, I must have been glutton for punishment because I decided to go to college. I went to college and I continued to struggle. Matter of fact, I'm one of those guys that squeezed a 4-year degree into 6. But I made it. I graduated with a very impressive 2.3 GPA. When I flunked the 6th grade, it was pointed out to me that I was the first person in my family to ever flunk a grade. However, when I graduated college, I was the first person in my family to ever graduate college. I graduated in 1997. And later on that year, I came across a tape called How to Be a Winner by Zig Ziglar. I took that tape and I put it in my cassette player. That's what it was back then. And I began to hear Zig Ziglar tell me about how I was born to win. And if I prepare to win and plan to win, I can legitimately expect to win. And from there, I began to listen to the people that he was quoting. And I would listen to Jim Rohn tell me that a formal education will make me a living, but a self-education will make me a fortune. I began to hear John Maxwell tell me how to fail forward. Began to listen to Dave Ramsey tell me that if I live like no one else now, that later I can live like no one else. You see, my mindset began to change, and I began to understand that I did not have to settle for here. I had a there waiting for me. I did not have to be an average student any longer. I could be an exceptional student. I no longer had to feel negative feelings about myself, but I could feel like someone who could accomplish anything if I just set my mind to it. My mindset began to change. I started a ministry in 2000 that became very, very successful. I became very successful in working with individual churches. I went on to start my own speaking and coaching business. And you know what? My dad lived to see those days. Matter of fact, I even went on to get my master's degree. It was a 3-year degree. I finished it in a year and a half with a 4.0. Not bad for a 6th grade flunky. So, Dad, you lived to see the day. You lived to see the day that I graduated high school, that I graduated college, that I started my own ministry, that I successfully worked with churches and building them up. And even though you're not here on this earth, because of your faith, I believe that you live to see this day. And let me just say, you ain't seen nothing yet. Woo!